Do you know the top 5 things that can destroy a team from the inside out? Just like a disease, you should know these top 5 things so you can remove them within your team to be successful.
Welcome to another video where we delve into the fascinating world of team dynamics. Today, we focus on the crux of many team issues, dysfunctions as identified by Patrick Lencioni. Just like a well-oiled machine, a team requires all its parts to function smoothly to achieve its full potential. But when one or more parts start malfunctioning, it disrupts the entire system. That's why understanding the root causes behind these dysfunctions is so crucial. Lencioni has identified 5 major dysfunctions that can hinder a team's success. Absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. These aren't just random issues, they form a model, a framework that helps us to diagnose and fix the problems at hand. As we dive into each dysfunction, pay attention to see if you recognize these in your team. The first dysfunction is an absence of trust. This can be a silent killer lurking beneath the surface. It's when team members are reluctant to be vulnerable with one another, hesitate to share mistakes, or withhold valuable feedback. This lack of trust creates a breeding ground for uncertainty and suspicion, stifling the free flow of ideas and collaboration. It's a barrier that hinders progress and puts a strain on productivity. Remember, trust is the foundation of every successful team. Without trust, a team cannot function effectively.
Think about this. Trust is the foundation. If you don't have that, there's no point of going to the rest. Okay, it's a silent killer. If you're in a team, we'll say a sports team, and you're going to pass the ball to somebody else that you don't trust, you're probably not going to pass to them, even if they're open. So it's important that might be a mistake and cost you the game. Same thing within teams. If you have some work you need to pass off to someone and you don't trust them, maybe to give you credit for the work or even to complete the job, you're just not going to give it to them, and that might cause inefficiencies. So how does your team go about building trust if it's lost? Remember, this is actually very tough because trust is hard to gain but easily lost. What requires from the team is the teams to be vulnerable to one another and confident that their team members will be respectful of their vulnerabilities, cannot be used against them. Trust to develop, you gotta invest in experiences and in-depth understanding of the unique strengths and weaknesses of each team members. An exercise to build this is you can have an exercise where you go around the room and tell everybody to give their opinion on somebody, their strengths and their weaknesses. Another one is you can do a personality test like Myers-Briggs type conversations, so at least understand impact that is occurring from self-awareness of each people's maybe personality. And then the last thing is, as a leader, to go first on conversations, show by doing, being authentic, and also making sure that you're fostering an environment that recognizes strengths, but also does not punish people for being vulnerable and honest.
The second dysfunction is a fear of conflict. This is when team members avoid disagreements and discussions that could lead to disagreements. It's like walking on eggshells, always trying to keep the peace at the expense of open, honest, and constructive dialogue. This fear of conflict stifles innovation and prevents the resolution of underlying issues. It creates a veil of artificial harmony, which may seem pleasant on the surface, but it's detrimental to the team's growth. A team that avoids conflict misses out on opportunities to improve and grow.
Just to be clear, walking on eggshells does not feel good. So keep that in mind when you're doing this dance where you have a fear of conflict, maybe because someone is going to escalate or someone is not going to be within your best interest for the team, you can refrain to hold information from them. And what happens here is that it stifles innovation because you don't want to actually have constructive feedback to the situation that might actually improve the whole team, but you just won't say it. And so what happens is your team becomes less optimal as you're going forward, and there's more issues that tend to arise in the future because of that, as things compound from each team member that's not sharing valuable information that can mean the success or failure of your project. As a leader, what can you do to help improve the situation if there's fear of conflict in your team? First of all, a leader must acknowledge that conflict, at least healthy conflict, is productive, and that if teams tend to avoid it, you gotta acknowledge that it might be necessary to actually talk about this, understand each other, so we can go forward and move on. Another option here is to really bring up points of contact or points of conflict within the team, even if it gets buried underneath. Like, hey, does it matter? Don't care. It's not that big of a deal. Really talk about it, making sure there's a resolution, using your emotional intelligence to spot those moments when we really need to talk about it more to kind of sell it to go forward. Also, making sure you're encouraging your team to not retreat from this healthy debate. It's actually healthy to do this as long as it's constructive, data-backed. Really having data and attacking the situation, looking at the situation is more productive than looking at people, attributes, or traits. And as leaders, we tend to try to stop or break up conflict, but it's actually a naturally occurring process. We all have differences, come from different backgrounds, so facilitating these conversations is important with the team, making sure that they are discussed, but again, in a healthy manner.
The third dysfunction is a lack of commitment. This isn't about clocking in hours, but about dedication to the team's objectives. When team members are not fully committed, it can lead to confusion, ambiguity, and a lack of direction. It's like rowing a boat where everyone has a different destination in mind. The result? The boat goes nowhere. A lack of commitment can make even the most talented and capable teams ineffective. It's the glue that holds everything together. Without commitment, a team's goals can easily fall to the wayside. The fourth dysfunction is the avoidance of accountability. This is when individuals dodge responsibility, preferring to pass the buck rather than owning their actions. It's like a contagious disease spreading rapidly within a team, often disguised as blame shifting or finger pointing. Imagine a football team where players refuse to admit their mistakes. It hampers improvement, doesn't it? The same applies to any team. This avoidance of accountability weakens trust, negatively impacts morale, and hinders the overall performance of the team. When team members shirk responsibility, the team's success is put at risk.
The major thing in this section that stood out to me was not admitting their mistakes. Team members are avoiding accountability. It's tough to improve if you think you're the best and you're making no mistakes within your team or even a sports team, because you can't have room for improvement, even if it might be needed. So it's really important that you have teams that are able to actually retrospectively look at themselves and understand what could have been a part that I made, or a decision that I made, or some kind of responsibility for me that could have gone wrong. Otherwise, you're just pointing fingers and it doesn't go anywhere, because people start to put blame on others and it just continues and contagious like the disease. It's important to, as leaders, how can we ensure commitment within the team? Well, to start with, we got to make sure that they're explicitly the key decisions on meetings, things that we decide on as a group, needs to be communicated to the team, right? So we're all aligned on what we discussed and we have documentation for it. Next thing is clear deadlines. So once we make a decision, we gotta respect those deadlines. We gotta own up and take accountability and discipline for what we committed to. And then another item here is understanding worst case scenario and contingency plans. Just in case things go wrong, hey, we already have a backup plan, like an emergency plan. Natural disaster happens, you have your emergency kit, you're ready to go, and you make the decision much quicker. And also, a leader must hold the team accountable. He must making sure there's transparency, making sure that the team is working towards shared objectives and standards. And also, reward triggers need to be shifted from individuals to groups and teams to make that achievement a more collaborative environment, improve accountability for the team.
The final dysfunction is inattention to results. Imagine a team playing a game without keeping score. That's what inattention to results looks like. It's when team members lose sight of their collective goals, focusing instead on personal achievements or internal squabbles. This lack of focus on the end goal can lead to stagnation, inefficiency, and ultimately failure. In a sea of distractions, it's crucial for teams to keep their eyes on the prize. Because, let's face it, a team that doesn't focus on results is a team that's not moving forward. We've now explored the 5 dysfunctions that can hamper a team's performance and success.
Now focus on results. So actually the leader plays a big part in this one, because they set this tone for what they expect from the teams and what type of rewards come from that. Remember, the teams that are willing to commit to publicly of what they can deliver are more likely to be passionate and desire to achieve those results. So important of communicating and the transparency for what the team is working on by them. Leaders also must recognize employees for what they actually do, for those actual results. So it's really important to recognizing those top achievers, those top performers, even if it's just verbally, it doesn't have to be like a monetary reward. Maybe it's like a shout out or accolade to the employee over email. That goes a long way. And so think of that as a leader to boost the morale and also improve on this focus on results area, and also recognizing those employees.
Let's take a quick recap. First, the absence of trust can wreak havoc on team dynamics. Then the fear of conflict, which can stifle creativity and growth. The third dysfunction is a lack of commitment, which can lead to unfulfilled goals and objectives. The fourth, avoidance of accountability, can result in a lack of responsibility and ownership. Lastly, inattention to results can shift focus away from the team's overarching goals. It's crucial to keep these dysfunctions in mind, not just in theory, but in practice. As we navigate the complexities of team dynamics, it's worth assessing your own team. Are any of these dysfunctions present? If so, how are they affecting your team's performance? Recognizing a dysfunction is the first step to resolving it. So take a look at your team and see what you can do to elevate its performance to the next level. Remember, it is up to you to remove these dysfunctions and pave the way to your team's success.
Find anything surprising about this disease that can decay the team from the inside out and destroy your team and reduce productivity? Well, keep in mind that unfortunately, these behaviors and this culture installed with the team takes a lot longer than you think. It might not be even weeks, it could be months to unravel some of this culture. One thing though, a good thing, is if you're a top leader within your company or your group, you can set the precedent within your group and really set an aggressive change that you want and you want to foster within your team. The good news is that all of the teams can actually get better. Take the small incremental steps to get there, going from the bottom of the pyramid, which is trust, and working your way to the top. This might even just being vulnerable about your insecurities or your inefficiencies, or maybe some opportunities of growth within yourself. First, to making sure people are okay at expressing themselves and understanding their strengths and weaknesses, but working within the team that might have a strength that they have opportunity for themselves, but they can work together to making sure the product still gets out. If this is a problem, start that conversation now. Get the conversation going. Again, good luck. But I'm confident that you, with these techniques, these items in this video, you'll be able to achieve your goals. Thanks again. Appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like my video, and I'll see you next time. But this is assuming we built a foundation of trust through this video.